There are shows with psychics.
And there are shows with doctors.
But there's no show like The Psychic and the Doc.
Your practical paranormal power unleashed.
This show synthesizes the talents of world-class medium Mark Anthony, the psychic lawyer, psychic explorer,
and street smart spiritualist, behavioral psychologist, Dr. Pat Baccili. All subjects are on the table and no topic is taboo. Inspiration, insight,
action, and fun as Mark Anthony connects callers with loved ones in spirit.
In tandem with Dr. Pat's fresh, no-nonsense, street-smart, intuitive insights. And she is hilarious.
Extraordinary problems
require extraordinary solutions, which may come from this side
or the other side. This is The Psychic
and the Doc, and it starts now.
Hey everybody, welcome. We got a great show for all of you tonight, but it is a super duper call-in show. 1-800-930-2819. And like buon appetito, buongiorno to our friends in Italy. Oh my gosh, I'm loving it. But I'm not going to explain the show because nobody does it better than Mark. Mark Anthony, my friend, colleague, the psychic explorer, one of the most, look, I do this show and I forget sometimes that I'm part of the show because I cannot even imagine how he does it. And I knew Mark before, but that last show we did, and I don't even know how he came up with what he did. And I was sitting here thinking to myself, oh man, she's never going to relate to that. I like my brain was going like that because it was like so left ball. There was something, but here's what I now know. And I have to tell you today, I sat in and I produced another show, Mark. And the show is about intuition. And when we're talking about Easter and all the holidays that go around this, they have one thing in common. They have a sixth sense.
Yes.
There's a sixth sense. So take it away. Best-selling author, award-winning Mark Anthony, the JD, that doesn't stand for what you think. He is a lawyer, a psychic explorer. He is all over television shows, radio shows, and now you cannot hold him back because he is out there. Look out in person. Take it away, Mark.
I was wondering, how did people come up with the idea of a rabbit holding a basket distributing hard-boiled colored eggs
here we go.
to commemorate the resurrection of Jesus Christ, which happens and coincides with Passover? And it's like, okay, long story short, Lent is starts 40 days before Easter. And during Lent, Christians, and this started in the medieval era, you have to give up something for Lent. And, the more primitive the Christianity, the more restrictive it is. And eggs were forbidden to be eaten during Lent. All right. So now we're starting to see eggs. But even the name Easter actually comes from a pre-European Christian goddess, the goddess of spring. And her name was Ostre, which is spelled in English E-O-S-T-R-E. And Ostre, people would give offerings of rabbits and eggs because rabbits and eggs symbolize fertility. Eggs because they hatch chicken, and rabbits because, well, they breed like rabbits, okay? so
I knew we were going to go there. I knew we would get there.
so then Christianity comes, and there's a melding of the pre-Christian and the Christian beliefs. And so to symbolize the end of Lent, people would bring baskets of fruit and cakes and hard-boiled eggs to the church and give them out as presents. And the colors to worship the goddess of fertility, Ostro, were purple, green, and yellow,
Oh my
very
gosh.
Eastery colors.
Oh,
And
Mark,
so,
you're
yeah,
killing me. You're killing
so
me.
all of this got turned into our Easter traditions, and by the 19th century, the Easter bunny, which had heretofore been a symbol of fertility, was now distributing baskets with multicolored eggs in them. And of course, when the Germans and Swiss got hold of it, they put the chocolates in that too. And so here we have it. And so then I looked up, well, what's the connection between Jesus and the Easter Bunny? And there is none. All right, so the Easter tradition of a rabbit distributing hard-boiled colored eggs has nothing to do with religion. It just became a cultural tradition. And so children go to find Easter eggs, and I've seen that, you know, there have been some religious groups, usually Muslims, that protest this, and they need to realize that it isn't religious. It's just a fun thing for kids to do. So there you have
Wow.
it.
Wow. Okay. So I was schooled. Did I mention this on the show last week? Okay. So, so I grew up a little bit different, right? I didn't find out till I was older when I had a blackout, passed out, didn't come back. They thought I was dead, but I wasn't. I was
Wow.
just having fun. I was having fun in the place I went. And but when they did something in the ambulance with me, right? I came back and I went through all these neurological tests. You know what I'm talking about. They
Sure.
hook you up for like a year. This was a year. And I
Wow.
get to the end, and Dr. Racis, the big neurosurgeon guy, goes through and tells me everything. You're doing great. We thought you had this, but you know, you're doing very well for being on the spectrum. And I said, oh, I love colors. You know, I relate to the whole color spectrum. I love it. I said, I grew up, and I went on with this guy, this doctor, and you could see his little smile on his face. He's a master surgeon here in Pacific Northwest. And it was going on and on. I'm saying, oh my gosh, that explains everything. I said, you know what? I wanted to be an artist. I went off on him. I want to be an artist. And he just said, you know, it's not that important. And I went off, and I didn't understand what it was. But here's the thing. When I grew up as a kid with the whole egg thing, because I was a little bit different like that, and I really, you know, I'm using my hands tonight. I took hiding eggs to an entirely new level.
I got to hear this one.
I'm telling you, people, even to this day, when my friends, like, I love the whole thing where we go hide the eggs on the kids.
Yeah.
I have a couple of really good friends, and they have their partners and friends follow me around because I take this to a whole level. And my friend Melanie tried to explain to me, this is a child, Pat. You cannot bury eggs with the shovel and expect the kids to find them. And so after the first year and they allowed me to do it the first year myself. They like, here's the eggs, bury. I'm going to the backyard burying for the kids. After only 2 kids found 5 eggs, they're like, where'd you put them? And I said, hello, the whole idea is to bury them. How do I know where I put them? That was it. But then thereafter, because I love doing things like that. They just basically said to me, you can do it. Can you write it down? Second year, I wrote it down. Couldn't read my handwriting. That didn't work. The third year, and they knew I loved to do this stuff. The third year, they had me followed. And those people wrote them around. And if I got too weird, like one time I literally wasn't thinking, and I saw this little egg nest for real. And I thought, put them in the egg nest with the real eggs. That was a mistake. So,
Ooh, yeah.
Long story short, do not invite me to your Easter egg hunt.
Yeah, you know, it's supposed to be easy for the kids to find. So
But
you sort of make it an archaeological expedition for the kids.
I think there are some people that have, if you ask me, how many steps down the road, ask Jessica, how many steps down the road I am when I'm talking to you, even about something in the present moment, it's going to be really important because I'm like all the way down the road. So see, I saw this as the funnest time. Like, wouldn't it be fun to go find things? Why? Because it's fun to me. And Linda will say to me, not everybody thinks it's fun to spend 3 weeks finding an Easter egg, Pat. And I'm like, what's the problem with that? You just stretch it out. Hey, look, we're taking your calls. Now, Mark, I want to ask you a couple of questions.
Sure.
What kind of Easter deal did you have growing up? Were you like the good kid? Were you the one that like, oh, my eggs are all painted, everybody can see them? Or were you more like me where you thought this is really cool and it was so abstract they sent you to therapy?
Actually, all my Easter memories when I was a kid were pretty positive. My mom always got really into the holidays. She'd start decorating so the whole place. I mean, you could tell when it was autumn because all of a sudden Halloween was starting. And of course, in my family, both my parents were mediums. Halloween was a big deal, but so was Christmas. And then for Easter, and mom always made this big Easter dinner, and the family and friends would come over, and she always made sure that we had Easter baskets. And then when we got older, it was just we'd color some eggs, that type of thing. But yeah, it was good. It was good. But I was looking at Easter baskets, and you see like, we're pumping our kids full of hundreds of grams of sugar and caffeine in one. For one day, that's fine. But Easter, eating some hard-boiled eggs, that's kind of good. But when you look at all the high fructose corn syrup and all the caffeine, don't be surprised when your kids are jumping around, hopping around like rabbits on crystal meth. So
Okay, so I'm just gonna say, y'all, like if this is the only time you do it, although Halloween is my favorite holiday, right?
Yeah.
Easter I love because not about that. But I grew up on Easter was a very big day in Catholicism for our family. But here's the thing. I agree with Mark on the sugar thing. But please don't wean them off of sugar on this day. That's all I'm saying. If you're going to wean everybody off on sugar, it's kind of like, look at me with my tea. Seriously? Like, I'd rather be doing an espresso, but I'm going to have the tea. 1-800-930-2819. We have a very special show for all of you calling in today. 1-800-930-2819. And the reason that this is this very special call is because it has multiple meaning for multiple people. It has a tradition, and the tradition that we talk about are traditions that cross spiritual lines, right? I mean,
yes.
This is not a show to tell you what we think you should think. Clearly, we could spend a whole hour talking about some of the stuff I did on Easter, but this is a show to open it up to what the beauty is. What the beauty is, what the celebration is, what it looks like.
It is, and that's why
The
we chose.
inspiration.
Yeah, the theme is the light of hope in your basket,
Yeah.
because the basket is a symbol of giving to others. Do you bring hope to others? And all the belief systems all describe the divine power in terms of light. The word enlightenment means seeing the light. It's an understanding. And Dr. Pat and I, we take a very open approach. We're not here to say, this is our Easter show, believe this, or this is our Passover show, believe this. We welcome everybody, because in the final analysis, it's all about the light and having hope, because the world is filled with a lot of darkness, of anger, loneliness, grief, violence, and hope is the light that will get us through. And so that's the theme of the show, is the light of hope in your basket, not just for you, and it should be for you, but also for what you do and how you inspire those around you.
Yeah. And we're taking your calls. Please say hi to Jessica when you call in. Jessica, let's take a short break. When we come back, we're going to go right at the phones, everybody. 1-800-930-2819. Love to hear from you. Give us a call. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's so great to have all of you tune us in. We were just talking during the break about Easter, and Mark and I were kind of having a little back and forth, and then Rocky chimed in. So here's the cool thing. I don't know how other families did it, but I know growing up in the Italian origin family that I was in for a bit, up until I was about 7 or 8, and my dad remarried. And then my poor stepmom had to like cook everything. But in our family, we grew up, and Easter was this extremely interesting food day. And we'll talk about that as we go. But if you look at my background, that's Easter bread. I'm not sure we had the egg things in it, but what you're looking at is Easter bread. There are various traditions, and I also had to learn a little bit more about that as I grew older from different other cultures. And now I'm learning about the Latino culture. But there is bread. Bread is this thing. Oh my gosh. Anybody watch the movie The Menu? That's a whole nother show. But when they served the meal without the bread, I just cried. I just cried. So Italian Easter may be different. I don't know. I had Norwegian Easter with Linda's family. That was a lot of cream sauce and stuff. Whatever works for you, do it. Jessica. Yes.
Okay.
I got hungry. My like the background just made me absolutely. I'm like so gluten free, and I got that thing under my background.
I know, and I'm looking at all those carbs behind you, and my stomach's growling here because I've been trying to.
I'll change it. I'll change the background.
I'm glad I just had some almonds.
Oh my gosh! All right.
Okay, let's go to the phones. We
Okay,
have Rose calling in from Washington. Rose, you are on the Psychic and the Doc.
Hi, Rose. Great to have you. Hey, how are you, Rose? How you doing?
Well, I'm fine now. First, I want to extend my apologies for my deplorable behavior last time I called in. I was extremely angry about the whole situation, and since then, I've just let go, let God, your circus, your monkey. I'm not going to get involved anymore. So I have a better attitude now.
I love you, Rose. I love you. I love you, Rose. And you know what? Mark and I do not feel that way at all.
No.
But I just wish, like, I don't know where you're out here in the Pacific Northwest, but I want to tell you something. There's one reason we do this show, Mark and I, and then I'm going to turn you over to him. It's because of calls like this, and because of extremely important individuals like you that call in. We don't expect you to be any way other than you are when you call in. That's why we do it. We have one mission, and that is to really try to help all of you. And so I don't want to speak for Mark. He'll speak for himself. But I will tell you, Rose, especially if you've had the childhood I have, I don't have any judgment around anything. But I love that you called in, because what you just did, I had a conversation with somebody today about the word humility. I am in 32 years of addiction and recovery. And if I could do it again, I would probably not pick the month of July to get sober. Because in a 12-step program, every month has a word associated with it. So every year, now for 32 years, when they celebrate my month, I have to talk about humility, because that's July. Mark?
Well, Rose, how can I help you?
Well, I've gone through several months of some very unexpected high expenses. And I know you guys aren't fortune tellers. I get that. But I've been thinking a lot about the passing of my best friend, Sheila. And sometimes it sounds like she's here in the house. And I just want to know, is she trying to tell me something? I'm pretty sure, okay, I've gone through 4 months, actually. I think bad things are supposed to stop after 3. but it's April. It's a new month. It's a new year. All
Wait,
of
wait,
that should be behind
hold
me
on.
now.
Rose,
Okay.
Rose, back up a bit. What's supposed to stop after 3 months?
Bad stuff.
Oh,
That's the third thing. Okay, it's over with. Now we're on to the good.
Oh,
Okay.
did we tell you that, Rose? We didn't
No,
tell you
this
that.
just
did we?
seems to be.
No, that doesn't
Oh,
sound
okay,
No,
like
it's-
okay, all right. Because I was going to have to walk
That's
that
like-
back.
Yeah,
I was going to have
like,
to walk that back.
I
Go
mean-
ahead, Rose. Go ahead, Mark.
yeah. All right, so
No,
so
it's like an
Rose,
old wives' tale. It's like if you drop your bread with the buttered bread, it's going to land butter side down. So I've gotten past the 3 months.
Oh my God, Rose! I'll tell you
Rose,
something, Rose. If I drop my bread with the butter side down, I don't care what it is. I am picking that thing up and I am shoving that in my face.
Oh yeah, 3-second rule, not a problem. But you know it's going to land butter side down. So anyway, I'm just trying to. What's in store? I mean, do my loved ones have anything
All right,
that
all
they
right,
want to
Rose,
tell me?
Here
hold
we
on.
go.
Rose, just all right. Here's what I want you to do with me. On the count of 3, we're both going to take a deep breath through our nose and then exhale through the mouth. You ready? On the count of 3.
Uh-huh.
1, 2, 3. Inhale. Now exhale through your mouth. Do you feel how that lets the tension go like that? Okay. Now I am picking up on a female energy around you. Now, before we assume this is your friend, and you said her name's Sheila, so try not to give me information. Just confirm what I'm bringing through. She keeps talking about the cracked mirror, and it's funny because you're talking about bad things and 7 years bad luck, cracked mirror. But is there a mirror that is cracked, or did you break a mirror? She keeps talking about a mirror that's been cracked or that has a crack in it. Does this make sense to you in any way?
No, not that I can recall at all.
Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. She's talking about a cracked mirror. And I want you to think about that. What about in your car?
I've got a cracked windshield.
There's
Got
a
a good, pretty
start.
good crack across it.
A crack across the windshield. And what is attached to the windshield? All right. The rear
right.
view mirror. Okay. So we got to work with her. Okay. Question, why haven't you gotten that fixed? That's what she's saying to you. And what she's telling me is that crack is going to get worse, and this is going to lead to a very severe situation. Okay. And the thing is, windshield repairs aren't going to cost you a cent. Insurance companies, most of them anyway, as far as I'm understanding them, have to pick up 100% of that. So you need to report this to your insurance company and get it fixed right away. She's talking about that. Does that make any sense to you?
Well, it does, except it's not a chip. It's a crack.
Okay.
And it's kind of my bad because I should have got the chip fixed years.
It doesn't
ahead.
matter. All right, Rose, you're like one of my criminal clients so by stealing, do you mean, okay, no, Rose, it doesn't matter if it's your bad or any bad. That's the whole point of that particular rider in an automobile insurance policy. Here's why. The insurance company would rather pay for a windshield than for the massive head injury and trauma and the massive accident that you're going to cause when the windshield shatters, hurts you, and you run into a whole bunch of school children. Okay. And this is what your friend is telling me. This is what Sheila is saying. And it's fascinating because Sheila has become your spiritual shield. And the way to shield yourself is to get this fixed. So, first thing tomorrow morning, what are you doing?
Well, I guess I'm calling Safe Light.
Yes, Rose has knocked the ball out of the park. Fantastic, Rose. This is what she's telling you. This is what she's telling you. And you know what's fascinating? And I'm going to turn you over to Dr. Pat. Think about this. She came in giving me a cracked mirror. Now, mirrors are made of glass. And then that wasn't resonating in your house. And then she shifted me to your car. And see, your interpretation is more important than mine. And I'm the conduit that this comes through for you. And you said, well, wait a second. It's not the rear view mirror, but it's the windshield. And then she started showing me what will happen unless you get this taken care of. So call Safe Flight. They'll take care of it. It's not going to cost you a cent. And that way, you're not going to get hurt because Sheila is your shield. Dr. Pat?
Hey, hi, Rose. Thank you. How are you doing right here now? How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good. I know that seeing that crack going across my windshield has been bugging me, and it's like, yeah, I got to get that fixed. Yeah, I got to get, and I just haven't done it. So I guess this is the boot that I need. That yeah, it's time to get this done before it gets any worse.
Do you remember when it happened?
And
do you remember like when it happened, who you were with when it happened?
I remember when I got the original rock chip.
Yeah.
I was driving, okay, you know the area. I was driving south on I-5 from Everett, Mount Lake Terrace down to Seattle to meet up with a mortgage broker to sign papers and get things going to buy my first house. And I got surrounded by these double dump trucks. I had one in front of me, one behind me, one beside me, and they kicked up a rock, and that's how I got the original rock chip.
So
that was back in 2016.
Okay, how did that turn out? Did you get the house, Rose?
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah, I mean, that was a couple houses ago.
Okay. So here's what I want to say to you.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Every time something like this comes up, especially, like when Mark brings a message like that forward, there are a few things that come to mind for me. But also what comes to mind for me, Rose, is how deeply you loved your friend. Right, Rose?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was my best friend.
She was the best. And I bet, I don't know if she was in that car with you, if she's seen that crack a million times. I don't know. I don't know that.
No, she had passed a couple of years before that happened.
Okay. So it's kind of what I thought, but thank you. Because sometimes when things like that happen, I had a crack and nobody could understand why I wouldn't get it fixed. And I knew why I didn't get it fixed, but I didn't know right away until Linda pointed it out. A crack, metaphorically, is a reference to emotionally sometimes how we feel. So, for example, the crack doesn't bother you. Or if it did bother you, or if you were like me with the Easter eggs, you'd have gotten it fixed. But somehow we relate to things like cracks from a psychological perspective, or even, Mark, you know this, from a subconscious perspective. And it wouldn't surprise me if at some level that's how you feel inside around the loss of your friend.
Well, that's one way of looking at it. During this time, I've looked at it that I just never put that much of a priority of getting it fixed. But it could also relate to the fact that I had recently separated from my husband, and the divorce was final in February, and this happened a couple of months later. So perhaps it was a crack in that relationship that I just, maybe, and then he passed the weekend I moved into that brand new house.
Oh boy, here we go. Hey, so Rose, whenever I can't do the show, would you come take my place and come in here and do the show with Mark? Because you see, what you just described is perfect. And Mark's solution to tell you to fix it is essential, because you're right. I mean, whatever it was, the loss of your friend, but the way you just described it, absolutely. Now, at the conscious level, you probably, I don't know if you thought about this before the show today, but at the subconscious level, every time you get in that car, there's something subconsciously that is pounding away at you. So you are going to get that done tomorrow, Rose.
So, okay, so that, it makes sense. Fix what was broken, get rid of what was broken from my past, and start off with a clean slate, and just clean slate. Just get rid of the broken part, get it out of my sight, get it out of my life, and head on from there. Close that chapter.
Fantastic. That's very good, Rose. And also, when I kept seeing the broken mirror, and it's funny because earlier you were talking about an old wives' tale and the 7 years bad luck when people drop or break a mirror. And so what you were just explaining about fix the broken, and this is symbolic of fixing the broken in your life and moving on. Maybe this is the way Sheila's telling you, this is the new phase in your life where you're leaving behind those years of bad luck. And that's what this is resonating with me. This is it may seem like a trivial message at first, but messages unfold and get more complex. Yep. And it's interesting because Dr. Pat, you said, well, has Sheila been in the car? No, she died before that. Oh, she has been in the car.
Exactly.
Spiritually, she knows.
Exactly.
And that's why she was getting me to it. So there we go. That's Rose, fantastic.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you so much for calling in. Yep. Get Rose's phone number, because if I cannot make the show, that interpretation was brilliant. Jessica, would you want to stay with the phones, Jess?
Sure. That sounds good to me. So next we have Tom calling in from Rhode Island. Tom, you are on the Psychic and the Doc.
Hey, Tom. How are you?
Hey, hello there. You know me as Tom from Italy.
I know. I have a background that I just put up a background just for you on the video.
Okay, because I can't see it. And anyway, hi, Dr. Pat and Mark. How are you both doing?
Hey, Tom.
Man. Batting 1,000.
Oh, Pat's background, it's a table filled with the most beautiful food you've ever seen. I mean, and what's Italian without lots of food, right?
Wonderful. Actually, we are here vacationing. It was funny, the last time we're in Newport, Rhode Island right now. The last time we were here, I said, I'll be there in April, but that was thinking it was going to be April 2020. And here we are 3 years later. So it's really, this is where we've summered for years, and my daughter, and it was all great. But anyway, always trying to add that positivity. And so, Mark, just going right to you. Anybody coming through?
Yes, I'm getting a female energy coming through. She feels like a mother figure connected to you. So it could be a mom, could be an aunt, could be a grandmother. And what I'm getting with her is, oh my gosh, I'm feeling this massive, massive pain in my head. So what was going on with her prior to passing? Could have been high blood pressure, could have been a stroke, because different causes of death and different medical conditions have a similar physical sensation. But I'm getting this horrific pain, tightness, pressure in my head. I'm also getting a sense of nausea. And nausea can indicate that she was having difficulty eating and or holding down food prior to passing. Sometimes nausea is a cancer indicator. Doesn't always mean cancer, but it could. So I'm getting this with her. And her passing was not real quick. It took some time. Does any of this make sense to you, Tom?
Okay, yeah, actually, a lot of it does. I recently lost a good friend in Italy who actually lived in New Jersey for 10 years, and that's part of the story. She died of a brain aneurysm about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Sorry.
Yeah. Scungili. Isn't that conch? Scungili? That's a seafood. She's talking about scungili, unless there's
Right.
a word that would sound like scungili. But she's talking about scungili. Scungili. Is there some word other than the,
I have to think about that one. So yeah, anything else coming through, and then I'll tell you why I wanted to tell you this great story. Go ahead.
Hold on, Tom. When you say anything else coming through, I'm giving you what's coming through. We got to remember, spirit communication is not like, Alexa, give us everything from the other side. Okay.
No.
Okay. She said that you had to meet. It was like fated that you two had to meet because she was able to impart upon you some wisdom and some knowledge which you're reflecting upon. And she says, and you're always going to reflect upon that. And she said, it didn't seem all that important at first. She said, but now you're beginning to see it. And she's handing you, to me, it looks like a sunflower. And sunflowers and daisies and black-eyed Susans look very similar because they got the little brown dot in the middle with the yellow petals. But she's handing you a sunflower. Does any of that resonate with you in any way? And don't worry so much how it applies to her. Does sunflowers, daisies make sense to you in any way? Or somebody with a name like Susan?
Okay. Her first name was Rita. But anyway, the imparting information. So a couple of years ago, we moved to one area in Italy, and then COVID hit. So my ability to get out and speak with lots of people was limited, and we were at the town market every Thursday, and all of a sudden we hear a New Jersey Italian accent. And for all your listeners, you'll know exactly what that is. And so we became really good friends. And every Thursday we get together with a bunch of people, her kids, her husband, and her passing was unexpected. In that it was like a week, and that was it. So yeah, and I'm really, she only passed like 2.5 weeks ago, and it's amazing that she came through and so quickly. And thank you, Mark, so now let me add the crazy part of how this all works. I think from my very limited view of spirituality. So I'm actually working without too much information. I'm working on a film project here in Italy. Back in Italy, and this woman Rita was Italian American, and she spoke fluent both languages, and she headed up in our local town, believe it or not, an American cheerleading group. Now, they don't have American pom-pom cheerleaders in Italy. That's not anything part of the culture. But what she did was she was like, you know what? I lived in New Jersey for 10 years, and we're going to do this. And she was so loved. And we were going to, and she was going to have a line in the film that she was going to say, come on, girls. I lived 10 years in New Jersey. We'll show them how the Italian Americans can cheerlead. Okay. And so anyway, she passed. And I then a week later actually moved to Rome. And so it was 2 Sundays ago, and it was the Rome Marathon. So think of like the New York City Marathon or the different ones. And they go running around the city, and they close off all the streets, the main roads. So I'm trying to get to a certain place to meet friends who are visiting, and I'm going down the street, and that's closed, and this stuff, and I'm like, where am I? Okay. So at this point, I'm thinking to myself, wow, Rita's passed. What do we do with that scene? Do we keep it? What do we do? Do we get someone to play her in this film? And she only had one line, but she had the girls all lined up to do the cheerleading at a concert, at a stage in Italy, and all this. And here I am going, I'm lost. I don't know where I'm going. And the cop says, oh, yeah, go down this area. You might be able to get a taxi over here. Anyway, I go down this street, and I cross the road. And, they give out water and stuff for the runners, for their marathons.
Yeah.
And I walk, and what's there? An American cheerleading squad doing their thing to motivate. They were practicing to motivate the runners who were coming through.
What were their colors?
I'm like,
what were their colors?
Oh, and actually the colors were red and blue, which is the exact same colors as Rita's team.
There you go.
Wow. Hey, Tom, where did Rita,
Yes.
where did she live in Jersey?
I think the town was Lodi. I think that area.
Okay. But she didn't live by the shore or anything like that, right?
No, she didn't live by the shore. But she loved the water, and that's why when she came back to Italy, she's half Sicilian, half Sicilian, half Neapolitan, but they moved to this lovely seaside town in Liguria where we lived. I lived there for three and a half years. And she and the husband and the daughter loved the boat. And they would take us out on the boat. And by the way, you're talking about seaside, the son just came back from Florida. He lived in like Fort Lauderdale, somewhere in that area, right near the sea, right near the ocean.
Yeah. The reason I'm asking, here's why I'm asking. I got a picture of Scungil up on the screen. And, anybody that's like the Atlantic, New Jersey, this thing here, this Scungil is absolutely a must on an Italian table. But the only way you know about Scungil is if you know and you're familiar with the ocean. Otherwise, you go to the deli and get it. But if you grow up by the ocean and you love the ocean, this is a mainstay. Now, I love this dearly. I love this food. You don't cook it right. It's called the champion of the chew. And what that means is it is not going to melt in your mouth. You're going to develop jaw muscles like it's nobody's business. And see, I think that's interesting for Mark to come up with an Italian word. I think you said scungili. I just say scungil.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking. What we have when we come to Newport, Rhode Island, we go to our favorite fried whole belly clam shack. And we just had lunch there today. Now, those are clams, whole belly clams, not squid, but.
Yeah. Well, this is like the biggest snail festival you eat. But you see, all of this always ties together. And you know this, Tom. You know about the energy of this. I am so sorry about her passing. I know it's really recent. I mean, there are no words really, but the way you honored her tonight, see, the way you talked about her, the way you honored this tonight, it's very special, Tom. And, it really talks to what's in your heart. And I just want to honor you for that, because to have that kind of connection that you had, and to come on the show tonight and to talk about her in such an honored, revered way, and to share that with all of us here so that we get to know her through your experience and get to know what she was passionate about. I'm going to be curious about what you're going to do, because are you going to use her voice? Are you going to replace her voice? You don't have to answer it today, but I can't say enough, Tom. Thank you so much for sharing that beautiful story.
Well, thank you. And going back to what Mark said, she was sort of a guide. So when we first moved there, I was working on my Italian, and she spoke fluent English. And so she explained Italian life to me, why certain things happen certain ways. And she was, in a way, motherly and caring that way. Even though she was younger than me, she was, a couple years younger. She was just a very caring person. And at her funeral, the cathedral in the town she had 6 relatives, because most of them were in the U.S., and 275 people who she touched their lives.
Wow.
She was so loved. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much. I mean, that is really what we remember here, Mark, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we are here, and boy, Tom, just absolutely. Thank you for reminding us of the spirit of this day. Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much. And get some
You're welcome.
skidoo.
And I have to tell you, that whole thing, here I am, like, what do we do? Leaders? Where am I going to find American cheerleaders in Italy? And boom, they're right there in Rome.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. She
Yeah.
wasn't going to
Anyway,
let you get away with that. There's no way she was
She's
going to
not
let
going
you get
to.
away with that.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
the sunflower, there's something there, and I want you to think about, and you don't have to do it now, but I want you to think about maybe some tiles or some artwork,
Mhm.
because I'm seeing like a tile with a sunflower on it. There's something that's very significant, and when you see it, it's really going to resonate.
Yeah.
So, Tom, thank you for
Thanks,
calling
Tom.
in.
Well,
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you both. Just truly love your show. And
Thank you.
I know my daughter wanted to be on this call, but she had something else. So I know in the next couple of weeks she'll reach out while we're here in the U.S. and we don't have to call you at 1 a.m.
Well, thank you so much. I look, call in anytime. Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much. Wow. Right, Mark?
I mean,
wow.
finding a group of American cheerleaders in Rome, what are the chances? And see, this is what I refer to as spiritual synchronicity. Is Rita's spirit guided them, and that's exactly what they needed at that time. So that's fantastic.
I love it. I want to just kind of hand this back over to you, because I'd love for you to talk more about the holiday. And you did a lot of research on this for the show, and I want to make sure that you share that with people, because while I got the bunny behind me here, it means so much more to so many more people, don't you think?
It does. This week, Passover. Let's start with Passover.
Yeah, let's.
This is a celebration of the triumph of the light of freedom over the darkness of slavery. And some people may think of it as a Bible story, but isn't that also a discussion that's ongoing even to this day? And so Passover is a very powerful and the most important of the Jewish holidays, because it was the deliverance of people from bondage into freedom. Then there is Easter. And what's fascinating is, you see all these people say that Christians and Jews are so different, but communion is from the Passover meal. When my Jewish friends have invited me to Passover dinner, the bread and the wine, that's communion, because that's what Jesus broke, and broke the bread and gave to his disciples. And so then there is the concept of light over the darkness of death, is the resurrection on the third day. And many Christians believe Jesus rose from the dead. Some don't. That's entirely up to you. But then there's the concept of, after the resurrection, Mary Magdalene and a couple disciples came upon the empty tomb. The empty tomb is highly symbolic in many ways. An empty tomb can also, in that case, it was, he has risen. But think about so many people who are suffering with grief, and there's the empty bedroom of the child that will never sleep in that bed again. There's the clothes in the closet of your spouse that will never be worn again. There's that empty chair at the Passover, the Ramadan, the Easter, the dinner table that will never be filled again. And we must look at the empty tomb as symbolic of Well, the body may not be there, but the spirit has ascended. So Easter is more than just handing out candy and hard-boiled eggs and all that. It is symbolic of the triumph of our spirit to survive the physical death of the body. And I've spent my life researching the survival of consciousness, what I call the electromagnetic soul, and all the great belief systems, all of them teach this. Yeah. So that is just the tip of the iceberg of why this particular week and this year is so significant to three of the world's major religions.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting that we're talking about this because I was talking to Jessica early and Linda, and we've noticed something really spectacular on a material physical level. And I was thinking about it last night, and I went back into, let's say 7 days ago, let's say, and I kept saying, something's changing, something's changing. And, you know, the energy of this, there's an energy.
Oh, yeah.
There's an energy around it. And some people talk about the energy and sometimes how painful things were. You know, of course, for many people in spiritual practices, this was a painful time, but it was also a celebratory time. And I think we're starting to feel that shift, Mark. What do you think?
I do. I most definitely do. And right now, the world is going through a crucifixion in so many ways. The plight of Ukraine, the plight of people in Africa and Asia that are subjected to war, the discord, disharmony in this country. But the one thing we all know about painful times and crucifixion and negativity is that all things must pass. And all that will end, and it will be the gateway to a brighter future, provided that's what we work towards. And so that's why, is the light of hope in your basket? And this is the Psychic and the Doc, and we're encouraging all of you to make sure that light of hope is in your basket.
Without question. Mark, please tell folks how they can find out more about you, how they can find out about, you know, your book, where they can get your books, all of the above.
Certainly. I invite everyone to visit my website, which is afterlifefrequency.com. My latest book, The Afterlife Frequency, which kind of has Easter colors on the cover now that I'm looking at it. It's got the pastels, blues and purples and the white light. And my website is afterlifefrequency.com. You can sign up for my newsletter, find out about a private reading, go into my calendar of events. I got a number of light circle events coming up. We're limited to 6 people. It's online. So just please visit my website, the afterlifefrequency.com. And also you can sign up for Best Holistic Life magazine. My article for April is called A Whale of a Tale and the Near-Death Experience. So you'll have to find out about that at bestholisticlife.com. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I want to thank our callers, and I especially want to thank Dr. Pat for being the best co-host and best friend. And I want to wish everyone a happy Passover, a peaceful Ramadan, and a very happy Easter. May God bless all of you.
God bless you all. Thank you, Jessica, for pushing all the right buttons. And thank you, Ronnie. Ronnie. Oh, wow, Ronnie's coming through. Who the heck's that? Thank you, Rocky and Linda, for literally, you know, providing the foundational support we need to do this show. Thank you all. We'll see you next time.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning into The Psychic and the Doc with Mark Anthony and me, Dr. Pat Baccili, right here on transformationtalkradio.com. Hey, look, come back next week so we can explore with you more of life's many challenges and learn from fascinating guests. And you know what? Even Mark and me. We'll connect you and discover insights from people in this life and from the afterlife. Extraordinary problems? Yeah, they do. They require extraordinary solutions. But step into the world of possibilities with us on The Psychic and the Doc. That's every Thursday, 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on TransformationTalkRadio.com. That's TransformationTalkRadio.com. And don't forget, we're also live face-to-face on Facebook.com, Transformation Talk Radio.